Hi friends, I just wanted to do a video, kind of a response to this latest article in the Paleo magazine. It's on page 66, and it's by Jason Kremer, who I guess is a doctor. He's a chiropractor, functional medicine practitioner. Anyways, never heard of this guy. Not that that's anything. I'm sure he's never heard of me. But I think there are functional medical practitioners or functional practitioners. There are some who have heard of me, and there's people in the paleo community who have heard of me, who've seen my name on Facebook posts, more so there. So sorry about the camera moving there. So, like, I was just like, I'm like, this is the best you got, Paleo magazine. So, let's see. I mean, one thing to his credit is he's saying that there is Lyme in every state in the country, and let's see. And he's right. The current standard of care is around acute cases, if people are even allowed to be diagnosed. And he does recommend a good MD, Richard Horowitz. And so I didn't get the last subscription of Paleo magazine, but so what he writes in terms of diagnosing Lyme, testing for Lyme. So he says a positive blood test or clinical diagnosis are indicators a patient should begin treatment. He says there's no need for testing after having a bullseye rash, and he says one should immediately start antibiotic treatment. Now, this is the August issue, but he might have submitted this article, who knows, in June of 2019, or who knows, maybe even January of 2019. And we now know that the microbiome is everywhere. Not only is the biome, not only do we have probiotics in our gut, but we have them in our eyeball, we have them in our brain, we have them on our skin. So when we take an antibiotic, an anti-life bomb, it destroys people's flora, and it can take a lifetime, if ever, to rebuild your natural probiotic uh, communities in your body. Sorry about the ambient noise there. So just starting with antibiotic treatment, I think you have to qualify it, and I'm not sure. I think if you're super healthy, maybe you could handle antibiotics, but if you're super healthy, it's likely you've really invested in your health. It's likely you've taken probiotics. It's likely you've been fermenting the past few years. So you're like, well, I've spent thousands of dollars and thousands of hours fermenting and taking probiotics, and now I'm going to take an antibiotic. It just, because I'm super healthy and I'm very well informed, like, that's just not the logic. And so let's say you've got cancer, or let's say you have AIDS or something like that. Like, do you really want to take an antibiotic when your autoimmune system is already down? So I think it's questionable to just, if you've got a bullseye, take antibiotics. For instance, I took antibiotics when I got my bullseye in 2002, which happens to be the highest amount of reported Lyme bites or stings. And you only can kind of report Lyme when you can see it on your body. Like, the symptoms are very nebulous. The diagnosis is very difficult to get otherwise. So he continues, it's worth noting that, some researchers believe Lyme can be transmitted from blood transfusions, transplants, and mother to fetus. The CDC states, so he reiterates the CDC states that there's no evidence of that. And then he quotes the CDC about different testing, and results are considered positive if both steps test positive. So I mean, he's being very. I mean, he must have consulted an attorney because this language is just very diplomatic. Results are considered positive. You know how you know you have Lyme is that you were in an endemic area with Lyme ticks. You're having symptoms, and you're probably going to have some lab tests that are a little off. But you know, like positive results, in my opinion, are you have to take into your account your symptoms, where you were, and you know, like lab tests do count for something, and your lab tests are going to show some kind of low-grade chronic infection if you're not in an acute phase. Most practitioners are familiar with this this testing. He talks about false negatives, talks about different tests. I don't know. I just wasn't very impressed with this article. Okay, so he talks about the Horowitz quiz. He says for those new or with an early infection, seeking treatment as soon as possible is urgent for the best outcome. I think treatment is important, and he does give a list of ideas of what to do. He admits that lab testing is not the gold standard. It's good to go to a Lyme literate doctor. A simple internet search or referral is typically the easiest way. There's no easy way to find a Lyme literate doctor, really. There's hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of people that are trying to find that Lyme literate doctor, who is probably Dr. Klinghart, Dr. Horowitz, Dr. J. Davidson. I mean, you know who's going to help you? People on Facebook, the other people on a YouTube thread. So he's like, in most cases, those who specialize in Lyme have personal experience. So yeah, but the thing is, those people who are qualified practitioners, Lyme literate practitioners, they're inundated with Lyme patients. But it is not simple to find that practitioner, and it's not easy to afford that Lyme practitioner. However, Dr. J. Davidson does have a class that he's doing. It's like an at-home Lyme treatment program, and I believe Dr. Klinghart might have something going on. But what he does say in this article, persistent Lyme. Let's see. So he admits that treatment for persistent Lyme is complex. He talks about. He says a brief round, 2 to 4 weeks of antibiotics tend to work well when Lyme is caught early. I disagree. And he says, he talks about insurance, duration. He says you feel worse before you get better because of the die-off of pathogens. It's not, you don't feel worse. I mean, when a cancer patient is taking, you know, whatever injections they give, they're feeling worse because their cells are being killed. You feel worse when you're on antibiotics because your body is being killed. Your cells are being killed by those antibiotics. And I mean your cells in terms of that you are 1% human and like 90% bacteria, funguses, viruses. So when you're taking an antibiotic, like 9/10 of you is being bombed, you know, so you're gonna feel bad, not because of the die-off. He says a Lyme specialist can adjust the course of treatment based on tolerance. I don't know. He says support is critical. He admits it's daunting. He says for those with debilitating, constantly worsening, and compromising quality of life, find a Lyme literate specialist and begin treatment as soon as possible. Oh my goodness. So patients. So he talks about prevention, and I think that is a good point. And so speaking of prevention, you keep on hearing, oh, just burn it off. Oh, put some essential oils on. Put some alcohol on. Pull it out. You don't want to do any of those things with the tick. There's special tick removal tools. Just imagine a hammer, and you know how one end of the hammer has that prying part, and so you get this tick removal tool that kind of gets under, it gets kind of between where the head is piercing your skin, and you kind of, I'm not exactly sure, like the tick removal tool instructions I've seen where they talk about pulling it out, but if you look at the serrated proboscis of a tick, it doesn't seem like you want to have that serrated proboscis to rip and tear. So what Dr. J. Davidson recommends is twisting one way or the other, twisting the tick out. And when you're twisting the tick out, you're not pulling its head out also, so it won't eject what bacteria it has in its body into your body. So then he talks about, he says remove ticks with the tweezers. So this guy is not, he's not really the authority. I'm like, there's so many experts that could have been talked about, like could have been invited to write about Lyme disease. And like, why, you know, like, is he somebody's buddy at Paleo magazine or something? Like, this is just, it's such a dire, critical topic, and there's people who could have done a better job. And I mean, this isn't the absolute worst thing. I mean, when I first read it, I was really upset, but upon rereading it, it's not quite as horrendous, but I think it could have been done better. And I guess, you know, it's just a health magazine, and it's not a Lyme magazine, and maybe that's what needs to happen. We need to have a magazine all about Lyme disease. Hey, who wants to do that? Let's start a Lyme disease magazine, Lyme & Co. Right. Well, let me know in the comments below.